thriving, playing, living life to the fullest. Our mission for Kansans since 2003. We are Kansas Spine and Specialty Hospital, proudly supporting KPTS, Public Television for Kansas.
The following program is brought to you by TZ Productions, offering 40 years of media experience.
Hello, it is time for Hatteberg's People. This week,
Dr. Ghandi, this is Loretta. We have Mrs. Kevin's blood sugar. It's 481. 481.
both sought to change the human heart. One with surgery, the other with philosophy. In 1984, Larry interviewed Kansas surgeon Shanti Ghandi. He is Mahatma Gandhi's great-grandson, and for years, he kept his ancestry quiet. Plus,
my mother said one time I was born on Saturday, so I'd have to work all my life.
he was the oldest judge in American history, serving at the federal courthouse right here in Wichita into his 104th year. It's an up-close and personal look at Judge Wesley Brown, who just kept on going. Those are just some of the stories that are queued up and ready to roll. Hatteberg's People starts right now.
These stories are like old friends. Their lives radiate from the screen like prophets of the past. They were teachers, but not in a classroom. Instead, they taught about life to those around them who cared to listen, and I was their student.
Hello, everyone. It is great to have you with us. I'm Susan Peters. Larry is taking some time off. This week, we start with a lightning rod for controversy in a small Kansas town. Her name is Rosalie Hostetler, and she's been swimming upstream for decades in the town of Harper. So much has happened since the story aired in 2004. Watch it, and then we'll tell you the rest of the story.
All I ever wanted to do was save downtown Harper. And sometimes I feel like, in the middle of the night, I want to run through the street and say, I told you so, I told you so, why didn't you listen? I told you so.
Behind a wall of her former hotel, now nibbled with time's rant, Rosalie Hostetler continues to be that free spirit whose cause now is saving historic buildings in small towns.
If we would rearrange our priorities, we could all pitch in and help save some of these small towns. Everyone doesn't want to live in a big city.
It all sounds perfectly fine, except that many people still can't get over Rosalie's past.
I don't have time to play their games, and I know that I feel sorry for them in a way because they don't know any better.
The Wall Street Journal once ran a story headlined, "Proprietor of Rosalie's Hotel in Harper upsets citizens with her penchant for erotica and cussing."
It was more like a salon, a gathering of good minds.
While she admits to a little cussing, she says the newspaper got it wrong. Behind the red door at this old hotel was a place for great conversation.
It was really great, and I know I've missed it terribly.
With the hotel now history and a lot of living and lessons behind her, Rosalie created a newspaper called The Prairie Connection. Printed in Arkansas City and distributed in some small towns, the paper's profits are used to support Rosalie's preservation efforts.
The theater was gifted to us. It hasn't been in use for quite a while. This is the only oyster parlor left standing on the prairies. There were 3 in Harper at one time.
So far, 6 buildings saved, but there's never enough money for repair. So her dream is that the paper will someday provide the income for historic preservation. In the meantime, in her eclectic office, Rosalie says she will be repressed no more.
As I look back over my life, it's always been hold me back, shut her up, repress her, throw roadblocks, stop her. And so this is finally just something that has blossomed, that just sort of emerged on its own. And I find I really enjoy it, that I finally have a voice. I don't care whether people read it or not. And I find that there are people that like it.
Love her or hate her, either way, you can't ignore Rosalie. In Harper, I'm Larry Hatteberg.
Rosalie's newspaper never did pay the bills, and in 2015, the city of Harper demolished her old hotel, claiming it was a hazard. Rosalie says the building was filled with $3 million worth of valuable art and nearly all of her possessions. Now she's suing the city in federal court. Meanwhile, at age 80, Rosalie says she has been shunned by nearly everyone in Harper. She says she's sleeping on the floor of one of the other dilapidated buildings that are still owned by her nonprofit organization. But Rosalie says she isn't giving up. She remains steadfast in her mission to revitalize downtown Harper, no matter what the obstacle. Speaking of outspoken idealists, many years ago there was a famous civil rights leader named Mahatma Ghandi in India. You've probably heard of him. But did you know Gandhi's great-grandson is a Kansan? Larry stumbled upon this fact in the 1980s and decided he better do a story.
India lives in her villages, and the terrible poverty there can only be removed if their local skills can be revived. Poverty is the worst form of violence. It will not necessarily be progress for India if she simply imports the unhappiness of the West.
His name was Gandhi. Ben Kingsley's portrayal of him in the Oscar-winning movie has sensitized Americans to Gandhi's view of social progress through nonviolence.
What you cannot do is accept injustice from Hitler or anyone. You must make the injustice visible. Be prepared to die like a soldier.
Gandhi's India is half a world and nearly 40 years away from Topeka.
Dr. Ghandi, this is Loretta. We have Mrs. Kempton's blood sugar. It's 481. 481.
Gandhi was this man's great-grandfather. Dr. Shanti Ghandi is a Topeka heart surgeon, and for years he avoided the publicity that came with his name.
I felt sometimes in my school days and college days, perhaps people would favor me because I was related to Gandhi rather than for my accomplishments.
Once he became a success on his own merits, Dr. Ghandi was able to share with others pictures like these. Here, as an 8-year-old, Dr. Ghandi walks with his great-grandfather.
And I recollect my mother telling me how she was one day trying to give me a bath. She was 16 years old and obviously inexperienced, and all of a sudden he stopped and said, "Let me show you how to do it," and completed the whole procedure to her surprise and everybody's surprise who was around him.
As a Topeka heart surgeon, Dr. Ghandi says that his grandfather's life has had very little effect on his own.
No, I don't follow everything that he preached, and I don't agree with everything he preached. But not all of us agree with everybody. But his philosophy was unique, age-old, from the time of Christ. And I think when everybody's making nuclear weapons to wipe each other out, I think we need his philosophy today more than any time.
When Gandhi was assassinated, Shanti Ghandi was just a boy. As he grew up, he seldom mentioned his relationship with his great-grandfather.
I've always been secretly proud of it until I saw the movie, which made me realize what I was really being proud of.
For him, it was more than a movie. It was a memory.
Dr. Ghandi retired from medicine in 2010, then went on to serve a term in the Kansas legislature from 2013 to 2015. He is now 77 years old, still living in Topeka. The idea of a retirement, it never really appealed to Wesley Brown. He has earned the record of the oldest federal judge in U.S. history. Larry got the lowdown in 2007.
I always think of the Constitution as not something telling people what to do, It says what government can't do to the people.
Behind the concrete walls of Wichita's federal courthouse, behind the secure doors of a federal judge, sits a man whose life has been the law for 73 years.
I've always gone on the basis it's not what you have done, but what have you done recently.
The Honorable Federal District Court Judge Wesley Brown could be the longest sitting federal judge in the nation.
My mother said one time I was born on Saturday, so I'd have to work all my life.
Judge Brown will be 99 next month, 99 years old and still hearing cases in federal court.
I'm well aware that I'm a little like the guy falling out of the 20th story as he passed the 10th floor. I'm all right so far.
Judge Brown was appointed to the federal bench by President John Kennedy in 1962. Before that, he practiced law in Reno County. Today, on the federal bench, he has served in senior status longer than most judges serve their entire career.
I really don't want to be known as being a judge at 99. I want to be known as a judge who does his job and does the best that he's able under the circumstances of his life.
In his courtroom, he's serious and expects those around him to be the same, but his sense of humor is never far away.
I said, how do you get used to wearing these robes? He said, you'll find out it's just like your underwear. After a while, you can't get along without it.
Much of what the judge does occurs before any courtroom appearance. It's here with his staff as they plan, for example, a naturalization ceremony for legal immigrants.
I think the naturalizations are really impressive, lots of them.
This is one of the joys of Judge Brown's job, swearing in new citizens.
It gives you the challenge to seek the truth in your life, in your country, the truth that will keep you free.
At home, the truth for Judge Brown is in his reading.
I must read 3 books a month.
And his memories.
And this is my son. I like this picture. He'll be 70 next November, but age is a state of mind.
On the bench, his age is never a question, especially among the lawyers.
Before me, at least, they do what they're supposed to do.
His courtroom steeped in power, the polished deep wood, the leather chairs, the smell of battles won and lost.
I never come out, but what I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve. It's kept me going.
Some say Judge Brown has authored more than 5,000 unpublished opinions since 1962.
I've never thought of my position as a judge as being one of power. It's one of obligation.
I'm from China.
As this country's newest citizens realize their dreams, the judge continues his.
It means that I'm performing a service for the people, my country.
Later, at his office, his day is over. His staff awaits tomorrow.
I'm here as a beneficiary of so many people who have done so much. I'll see you tomorrow. So we go.
See you later.
That I owe them a great obligation to be worthy of their trust. So, the future of this country, my advice to the people is don't sell it short.
Judge Brown kept working up until his death in 2012 at the age of 104. His passing attracted national attention as he was and remains the oldest person to ever serve on the federal bench. Well, imagine all the history Judge Brown lived through in his 104 years. Much of it is history nobody wants to see repeated, such as the Cold War. Well, did you know that Kansas played a significant role in the nuclear arms race of the 20th century? Look what Larry found in McPherson County.
This is wonderful breadbasket, wheat ground.
Jay Bremeyer walks where once guards with automatic weapons stood.
What we have here it's the highest point. It's a rolling little knoll.
On Jay's property near McPherson, remnants of the Cold War lie beneath the Kansas countryside.
This is the top of the silo, and we're actually standing on the lid, which could be opened by hydraulics.
In the 1950s, this was the reality. An Atlas missile poised for war, and for much of that decade buried unseen.
on what is now J. Bremeyer's land in McPherson County.
It's not a dead piece of the past. It's something that is still a part of our lives. This missile site is. It's completely exciting to be able to walk around in an artifact of the Cold War, a museum piece in effect, that is right here hidden under the surface in central Kansas, as opposed to reading a book or watching a video about it.
Missile silos like these operated all around the Salina area. Schilling Air Force Base in Salina was home to that Atlas missile wing.
Actually, even though I grew up just 8 miles from here in McPherson, I was not really too conscious of the fact that it was here. I've never known quite what to think of it. The first time that we came down here having no idea what we were going to find. And I think we had one flashlight, and there were like 3 of us, and it was very dangerous in retrospect. It's not the kind of thing we can show to people, but through what you're doing, when people get a sense that we all live in central Kansas surrounded by what was our abandoned 12 Atlas missile site installations.
Now, deep underground, the command center is just a decaying, rusty shell.
This housed a nuclear bomb. Thankfully, it never was used. It would have been a nightmare. It would have been the end of the world.
In one old picture Jay found in his research, you can see the missile that was believed to be on Jay's property in the 50s being trucked along Old Highway 81 near McPherson.
This concrete lid actually weighs 300 tons. The whole thing was built to withstand essentially a direct nuclear attack.
Topside, the Earth is slowly reclaiming this Cold War relic. Now, Jay loves the historic part, but is against ever using a missile in anger.
I'm totally opposed to it. I don't think that getting even with Russia at that time would have made the world a better place. The best hope for humanity was that somebody would survive.
Jay has since sold the land where the missile silo is located, but he says the new owner hasn't done much with it. It remains a decaying relic of a bygone era. Spencer Linville saw signs of decline in his hometown, and he stepped in to stop it. The town's lumber yard had recently been shut down, and Spencer hated to see that happen. So, fresh out of college, at age 23, he stepped up and bought it.
Well, I enjoy being outside and working, enjoy, construction. I just thought it was a great mix of what I enjoy to do and what I got an education to do.
So when this lumber company in Douglas, Kansas closed, Spencer Linville knew he had to have it. So he bought it.
Yeah, when we first started, and didn't even know where to start. There's stuff everywhere.
At 23 years old.
Yeah, at times it's overwhelming. And so I just felt like, and with the timing of everything, I just felt like this was the right thing to do, and it all worked out, so I was able to do it.
Spencer is a Douglas native, graduating from high school in 2008. He has a strong, loving family. He was president of his class, won a prestigious scholarship in entrepreneurship at WSU, and last year married Kara, his high school sweetheart. And this year will help keep the town alive by purchasing the lumberyard.
Trying to fall asleep and you run through your head all the things you still need to do and all the numbers, and you look at the loans and the payments and how much you got to bring in, and you start looking at the nuts and bolts of it. It's a little nerve-wracking,
Downtown in Douglas, folks couldn't be happier.
Oh, it's a huge boost, especially at this time of year. And all of a sudden, this vivacious, bright young man decides that he can make a difference and he can come back. And people feel that. I mean, it's good news.
At the Triangle M Diner, as the burgers fry, owner Becky Minahan says it's great for the town.
It is. We are so glad to hear that Spencer is going to reopen the lumberyard. You never know when you need something, you can just run out there really quick, and so we're really excited for him.
Most of us grew up and left there, and I think it's a great thing that someone comes back to help their hometown.
I think that residents of small towns are very passionate about where they come from, and they want very much the survival of the town.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I get here about 7:30 and leave it dark, and it's like the day just flies. being able, I guess, this young to start from scratch with the business and get it set up, I'm learning a lot.
And the learning continues. Spencer will computerize the inventory, bring the business up to date, and continue with that hometown touch. A former teacher says she's not surprised.
Spencer's just one of those really honest, down-home guys, and I am so proud to have called him a former student.
I hope this is a fairy tale ending where it's, happily ever after, but the reality of it is it's a business and it's going to take a lot of work to make sure that we are successful and that we can compete with everybody else.
You will be happy to know that 5 years later, Spencer is making a go of that lumber yard. It's called River Valley Supply. You'll find a link to the store's website on the Hatteberg's People page at kpts.org. Another important business in any small town is the post office. And in the town of Norway, Kansas, the old PO is run by the same young lady for over 50 years. On a sunny day, Larry paid a visit.
Very old buildings.
31 people live in Norway, Kansas. At the post office, Belva Morgan knows them all.
They're congenial people lives here. Well, I just am in love with them.
For 50 years, she has been the post mistress in this tiny community in Republic County. At 88, she is still working.
And I've got to know the people. I've got to miss them when they're gone.
Like any post office, there are the usual things, pictures of folks they don't want in their community, and a notice that juicy Colorado peaches have arrived.
You learn to like people, you learn to love people.
Norway is a tiny farming community surrounded by corn. Founded in 1869, this little place holds a special beauty for those who live here.
I like the quietness of it. You don't have to worry about what's going on in the cities. I just like it, I guess.
Next door to the post office lives Eugene Herman. He's retired and maintains a world-class garden both in front and back of his home. Belva has tea with he and his wife every afternoon. Among the flowers and sleepy cat are moments unattainable in larger cities.
I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
I don't either.
Outside Belva's post office back door are the flowers planted by her neighbor and the nearby fields of corn stretching to the sun.
In other words, you found out I'm just kind of sold on Norway, Kansas.
Inside, Belva works as she has for 5 decades. And by the way, after 50 years, she has 4,000 hours of sick leave just waiting to be used.
Where I enjoy life.
To many, there wouldn't be much here in Norway, Kansas.
Where I love my friends.
But to Belva?
And my patrons.
It is paradise.
Well, I'm just content, I guess, and hope the rest of my life is as enjoyable as it is now.
I'm Larry Hatteberg.
Unfortunately, all good things come to an end. Norway's post office has since closed, and Belva passed away in 2011 at age 95. From the small town to the big city and a great talent, we step back to 1991 and the piano man of Kansas City.
It is a gift, I believe.
I'm going to Kansas City, here I come. I'm going to Kansas City, here I come.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
When the music stops, Wes Winters is just another Kansas Cityan. But the music seldom stops.
Come on.
At home, he loves his dog.
Come here, sit.
But he loves music more. It's Saturday night at Weston Crown Center's lobby bar.
You can almost taste the dogs, French fries, they say.
Here, Wes Winters is the piano man. Most believe he's studied for years at the finest universities. That's the first question other musicians with years of study ask.
And I say, well, I didn't. And they say, well, did you take piano lessons? I said, no, I play by ear. And they go, oh, I hate you. That's the first thing out of their mouth.
That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone who's so unforgettable.
In his mind are over 1,000 songs, and he uses no music, just raw talent.
If you've got a big, nice crowd of people, you need to grab them the very first song when you go out there. You need to just grab them immediately. And if you do that, you've got most of them the rest of the night.
There we go. Thank you.
At home, the fingers and the ivories don't rest. It's more practice. Kansas City touches your heart with art and culture. West Winters touches your soul with music.
I want to be somebody that people really want to come see.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Wes has since taken his talents to Las Vegas, where he performs nightly. You'll find a link to his website on the Hatteberg's People page at kpts.org. That's it for now, but on the next week's Hatteberg's People...
I always said I didn't want to get to be a village character, but I think it turned out to be one.
35,000 miles on his bike and still pumping away at age 83. But that's only part of the story. Tune in next time to hear the rest. Plus... Like smoke under a door, his music surrounds you. Hear his story and find out what became of this smooth jazz artist whose career was taking off in 2004. Thank you for watching. I'm Susan Peters. If you have a question or a comment about the show, send us an email at hattebergspeople@kpts.org. We would love to hear from you. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.
The preceding program was brought to you by TZ Productions, offering 40 years of media experience.